Newport News residents know that we have to be alert during tropical season. Depending on your age, you may remember some of the storms in our recent history. I remember Isabel, Irene, Ernesto, Floyd. One of the things you can be sure of with tropical systems is the next one is going to be different than the last one. Whether it's flooding, whether it's wind, whether it's loss of power, we just will never know for sure. As a city, one of our highest priorities is being prepared for those type of weather emergencies. While we do all we can to be ready and to assist the citizenry during a tropical event, there is no substitute for personal vigilance, that you and your family do the things that you need to do to be prepared in the event of a serious tropical system. The purpose of this program is to remind you about what we as a city do to prepare for hurricane emergencies, to remind you about the tropical threats that we face in this part of the country, and to urge you to do all that you can do to be ready when the next tropical event comes to Newport News. Thanks for watching.
Hurricane season 2012. Newport News, get ready.
A lot of us here in Public Works monitor various websites ourselves to just keep track of what's going on, just like you would at home with, say, the Weather Channel. I personally like to look at something called Bear Paws because it seems to have a very comprehensive view of what's going on. It doesn't just tell me what the forecaster says, it tells me what the forecaster uses to determine how he comes up with his forecast. Things like sea temperature, which has a big influence in driving the intensity of a hurricane.
We're making sure that we're keeping track of what's going first and foremost with the data from the National Hurricane Center. The National Hurricane Center is the official forecast for tropical storms and hurricanes from a track and an intensity perspective. Our job is to take the data that comes from the National Hurricane Center and localize it.
The emergency management uses HurrEvac, which is a hurricane evacuation program that's put out by NOAA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. What it does, it tracks the storm and it gives us the arrival estimates of the tropical storm force winds, hurricane storm force winds, and it sets you a timeline for evacuation. It will tell you when you need to start and when you need to stop because the winds reach that critical speed and it's unsafe to be out on the road.
What we have done is install weather stations on key fire stations across the city's length, and monitoring those stations, we can determine, and we have gridded the city out in basically 3 sections, we can determine what the ambient weather conditions are in each of those sections. We have seen situations in the past where we experienced 60-mile-an-hour winds on Chesapeake Avenue and 25-mile-an-hour winds at the exact same time up in Lee Hall. So it's very difficult for us to make a blanket decision on how we're going to respond across the city.
The Department of Transportation, we are in tune to the meteorological forecast, and we are also in tune with the National Hurricane Center, which gives a long-range forecast, and we're also in tune to seasonal forecasts that are put out early in the season. That determines whether or not this is projected to be an above normal season in terms of activity, a normal season, or below normal season.
The number one tool we have is Live Viper radar. It's unlike anything else in Hampton Roads. It basically takes all the radar data that we get and kind of manipulates it in a different way and looks for the twisting of the wind that can be an indication of tornadoes. Tornadoes are a big concern with landfalling tropical systems like hurricanes. So I think Live Viper radar is really important in really alerting us. This is the area that you need to be concerned about. I mean, Viper radar was letting us know long before any warnings were issued that, hey, heads up, you need to be really concerned about this storm. We're seeing that low-level rotation. Tornado could drop down at any point.
Did you buy the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yep.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes.
The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Visit ready.gov.
About 5 days out, we're starting to get postured for the storm. Definitely 4 days out. We're calling in our people, that is the Public Works Department, so that they can know what they're supposed to do. We want all of them here. We want to try to prepare ourselves and put our equipment in a place where it's not as much in harm's way. Then we want them to go home so they can take care of their homes, because they're going to come back the day before the storm, or the day the storm hits, and they're going to be here riding out the storm, and they're going to be here most likely for several days after that, taking care of the issues that occur as a result of the storm.
We have 4 readiness conditions, and they start at the 96-hour mark, which is 4 days out from a projected arrival of a tropical storm. And at the 96-hour level 4, the city manager would call a meeting of all department heads to put them on an alert to make sure they review their operational conditional stand-up documents to make sure all personnel and equipment are ready to deal with a storm. Then we move down into the readiness condition 3, which means that the storm is coming in with a higher level of confidence, and we move up to brief not only the city staff, but we also are going to be reaching out to our private sector partners to bring them into the communication loop. And then it gets down to readiness condition 1, which is within 24 hours of the arrival of the storm, and that's basically where you're battening down the hatches, and all personnel are reporting into continuous duty status, and most departments are working a 24-hour shift, and Public Works, Public Utilities, Police, and Fire go into the same type of an operational mode.
As far as preparation, personnel is the first thing, so we go through that piece of it. Beyond that, we make sure all of the stocks and supplies and all of our fire stations are at maximum levels, so that if we do have to sustain operations for a duration, we don't have to worry about going out and getting supplies. We try to keep our stocks up. All of our employees are on notice to have 72 hours worth of food when they're called back in for an event, so that we don't have to worry about stores not being open or where we're going to find something to eat. Every employee knows coming into it they have to have 72 hours worth of food to sustain themselves at work. And beyond that, keeping an awareness and maintaining a readiness, stuff we do every day.
We have a kit, we stock up on our supplies, we make sure our vehicles are fueled, we have all the necessary equipment and supplies that we'll need to sustain us. And then we have a plan as well.
Know your hurricane evacuation route as it is designated. Know where to get information to stay current on the storm and the particulars of that storm event. Every storm is different.
You'll hear us talk a lot about whether it's going to be an active season, whether it's going to be a quiet season. The bottom line is we live along the coast, and so you prepare for an active season the same way you do for a quiet season. You be prepared. You've got to have the food and the water and batteries and tape and tools and all those things that are on the list for hurricane kits. You just have to have that ready. It's critical.
When the wrong place at the wrong time just happens to be right where you are, you muscle through it and help others come out stronger. That's something everybody's got, a little thing called heroism. Volunteer some of yours at readyhamptonroads.org.
Stay connected to Newport News with NNGov.com, the website that keeps you up to date on city departments, services, and the news happening around town. When it's time to pay your taxes, your water bill, even your parking tickets, pay them all online. There are even times when NNGov.com will pay you. A pickup or a permit, a book or boating. It's all just a click away at NNGov.com. And now on NNGov.com is a whole new way to see Newport News Television. You'll find links to watch your government at work with City Council meetings and Planning Commission meetings live, shows that highlight community events, what to see, and what's making news around town. Hundreds of new and archived local programs are just a click away. If it's happening in Newport News and you can't watch it on TV, then watch it here, 24/7 on NNTV.NNGov.com.
After a storm is passed, our primary duties are data collection. We want to go find out where the highest wind speeds were, what times they occurred, We want to get a sense of when the highest storm surge occurred, what the storm surge actually was. And there are agencies that help do that. In addition, what sort of damage occurred and where did it occur? And we try and collect that data and provide a report on that that's both internal and outside the Weather Service.
So we have 24 hours to get our initial damage assessment. That is a priority for the city. So the damage assessment teams respond here. They get their vest, they get their helmets, and they get their magnetic signs, and they get their clipboards to go out. The city is sectored off into small geographical areas. They have cameras and radios for communications. The team goes out and does a quick ride through the neighborhood, making a list of damaged structures and bridges and roads that are damaged. That reporting information has to be returned here within 24 hours and submitted to Richmond to the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, who forwards it to FEMA.
The very first thing we do is we want to go out and assess the damage. We want to see what the problem is. Second thing we're going to do, and almost simultaneously, we want to clear the streets, the main arteries, because we want to get traffic moving again, and that traffic being specifically the other first responders, those being EMS, fire, police. If we don't clear the arteries and then the secondary roads in that order, they're not going to be able to get to where they want to get to. So Public Works, and by the way, we are recognized as first responders now, if we don't get out there and clear the roads, those other guys aren't going anywhere. And the third thing we're going to do is that a few days after the storm passes, we're actually going to come out and we're going to start cleaning up all that debris that has been created.
The first thing we want to do is an initial sweep of the city. We try to locate where we have significant areas with trees down, with power outages, if any of the critical infrastructure like hospitals are impacted or the water treatment plant is impacted and they're without power, we focus on those areas first because those are critical pieces. Our goal is within 24 hours we have canvassed the city, we have got to report back to the state, and they know what our damage assessment looks like.
We also have areas that may be impacted severely, large power outages, and it's necessary for us to protect the property there, especially if there's been a large-scale evacuation. And we need to make sure that the roadways get opened up in a timely manner so that we can get to those areas and provide the protection they need.
A hurricane can be a very devastating event. And it's not like your typical thunderstorm where you can maybe clean up in a day or two. This thing could, it could take weeks, sometimes months to clean up after a storm. Our resources, both in human and equipment resources, are exhausted. You know, we normally are maxing out on any given day. When a storm comes in like that, hurricane proportions, it far exceeds our capability. In fact, we have to have contractors come in to supplement what we do. During Irene, which is a rather small storm actually, by hurricane standards, just to give you an example, we had about 81,000 cubic yards of debris that we had to collect, and it took us about 5 weeks to do that. And by comparison, in a given 5-week period of time, we'll normally pick up only about 2,000 cubic yards of woody waste or debris. So 40 times what we normally do is what's being asked of us.
We have teams of people out in the field, and they basically put their lives on the line to bring us back information. You know, we have folks on the anchor desk making sure we get information because people need to know that.
Re-entry is our top priority, and clearing debris to enable re-entry is what our mission will be after the storm.
Did you buy the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yep.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes.
The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Visit ready.gov.
The City of Newport News is serious about going green. As one of the city's strategic 8 priorities, everywhere you go, you'll see evidence of Newport News' commitment to sustainable local policies. Recycling. Newport News achieves participation rates 30% above the state mandate. A Buy Green purchasing policy. Environmentally friendly new construction. Setting goals to use 50% recycled materials. water conservation projects, a community garden for our citizens, and Newport News is the first in Hampton Roads to initiate the use of propane-fueled city cars. Honored with numerous awards for its leadership in going green, Newport News' NN Green is part of the city's strategic 8 priorities, focused on redoubling, consolidating, and launching new initiatives to sustain our environment and save money. Be a part of NN Green. Find out how at nngov.com/nngreen. Newport News, where green things are happening.
From a pure weather perspective, the most important thing that the citizens of Newport News can do is maintain an awareness of what's going on with a tropical storm or a hurricane that could potentially be impacting the city. And then secondly, and this goes with number one, if the city decides an evacuation is necessary, pay attention to that evacuation and take the advice of city government. They are working directly with us, coordinating with us on a routine basis. And so they're making the decision based upon not only what they feel is in the best interest of the city, but also based upon the best possible weather information we can give them.
The time to evacuate is when you can. If you wait until the last minute, you may not be able to evacuate depending on the amount of storm and the conditions that are going on. And remember this, if you decide to shelter in place, there may be no help for you. Depending on the conditions, emergency personnel may not be able to respond.
There's going to be a period during the storm that we cannot respond, and there's no way that we can get them any help until the storm subsides. And it could potentially be we can't get to their home because of trees down and other issues, and they have to be self-reliant, self-sufficient. They should have enough food and water and supplies and medication and those things that they need to sustain themselves for 72 hours.
Whether or not to evacuate is a local decision. The governor will make that decision whether or not VDOT will actually implement I-64 lane reversal. Travel times will be much longer than our normal travel time, and they should know whether or not they are going to grandma's house or they will be seeking inland shelter. They need to know that before they get on the road.
Your smartphone. You wouldn't believe how many things that you can do with a smartphone and how much information that you can get with a smartphone. And to have that, the Red Cross just came out with an app that has a feature on it where you can sign up and you put all your important contacts on there that you want to communicate with if there's a hurricane. And with a single button that you push, you can let them know that you're okay. Because you have families spread out throughout the country, especially a military area like this, and being able to let them know that you're just fine is really important to them and for you as well.
The city of Newport News is blessed to have the well-trained and enthusiastic staff that exist across all departments. Because we work so well together, the police and fire departments, public works, public utilities, parks departments, those folks that are going to be out up until the point when the storm impacts the city and are going to be out right after that, we all work together. We have common communications. We work under a common framework. We have a single person making the calls and directing activities so we know where everybody's at. It gives us a tremendous sense of comfort and satisfaction.
A lot of folks may only see the storm from their yards, and Public Works sees it from a 30,000-foot point of view. We're looking at the entire city, which we're trying to take care of 185,000 people. So we're trying to get to everybody as quickly as we can. So if they could be patient, we would appreciate that.
While there's no way to be sure when the next storm will hit or how it will affect Newport News, we need to do everything we can as a community to be prepared. That includes the city government and you and your families. Thanks for watching.
You have been watching a Newport News Television special presentation, Hurricane Season 2012. Newport News, get ready. Look for more information to keep you and your family safe at the following websites, starting with nngov.com. This and all local Newport News television productions are available to you online 24/7 at nntv.nngov.com.